Here's the problem that I see. I appreciate that all of you seem to have some degree of optimism here. I was just peeking at the EPA's website. It says that 10% of emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, comes from agriculture. It even lists soil and rice in addition to cows. So if you're a person in the lay public, you're saying, well, you eat rice, you eat cows, whatever. I mean, it's all causing a little tiny bit of pollution, but it's not really a big deal. And then the other thing, I had the opportunity to watch the press conference from the IPCC's new report that came out, I guess, in the last week or so.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
I was pleading to hear the 87% number that's been pushed around here. And I've been pleading to hear something substantial, regardless of percentage, about changing our diet globally and the impact of that. And there were, at one point, I guess they called it the demand side. And they talked about that it might also be nice in our lifestyles to change our diets. Well, what happens if you look at top down, you go to government policymakers and they point at the EPA. If I go to my local public, I'm an activist and speak at sustainability meetings. I take I go through with a fine tooth comb what you guys have said and I present it. And how successful have any of us been? And what are we at? 3% vegans in the US I'm talking about? I mean, we're not doing very well. So top down, bottom up, we need to do something differently than we're doing it now. What is it?
Yeah, let me address that, I mean, because you specifically referred to the 87% figure. You know that in nutrition science, there are deceptions. We are deceiving people about protein, about calcium in milk, and about omega-3 fat. I mean, Dr. McDougall in his website has the four deadly dietary deceptions. Okay. In the same way, there are 4 deadly climate deceptions as well. Okay. So it's a system that is trying to frame everything in a way that makes itself persist itself, right? So it's a system that's based on exploiting other beings, exploiting other people. It's a colonial system that we have created. We have colonized other lands. It's basically saying, how can we extract more and more and more from the planet and funnel that wealth in the form of money to a few people at the top? That's the system we have. And it's going to be all about deception. So there is death, disease, and destruction. Death for the animals, diseases for human beings, and destruction for the planet. Okay, that's how money is being made right now. This is why I say it's a complete system transformation that we have to be talking about. It's system transformation that is going to solve this. I mean, there's no other way to do this, okay? Other ways are just helping to transition from the old system to the new system. That's what we can do. So like in any system transformation like this, you have protectors in the old system that, like Mayor Eric Adams, who says, I'm going to be honest and tell you that eating animal foods is bad for you. And therefore, he's telling the truth. And there are going to be institutions like the EPA that twiddle the numbers, right? So they tweak the numbers so that it makes it look like it's not as bad. Just like they did that with the protein myth and the calcium myth and the omega-3 myth and the carb myth, right? So you have to expect that there is deception in the system, because there is deception. There's been deception in the system from day one. We pretended to give India independence while continuing the colonial system. We pretended to give African nations independence while continuing the colonial system. Even today, even this year, there is $2 to $3 trillion worth of resources being siphoned from the global south into the global north. And that's why the global north is richer than the global south, because we are stealing from the global south. So anyway, we need to understand that this is the system that we are in, and we can't continue this. Okay. So yeah, people are going to be pointing to false data, false numbers, but we who are telling the truth should stick with it. Yeah.
Can I interject one thing? And I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Who asked the question?
Joel.
Joel.
Yeah.
So Joel, in addition to what Dr. Rao said, I think it's very important for whoever's taking up the discussion, whether it's with a policymaker, with a board member, educational system, or a business or a funding institution. I think it's critically important to take pieces of what Dr. Rao said and emphasize that there are statistics that you mentioned. They're pointing to the EPA, or they're actually pointing to the IPCC, or they're pointing to FAO. But that's laden with bias, and you need to start with that premise, okay? And they should understand this. They should say, well, you know, an orthopedic surgeon, you know, unless they're very eclectic and universal in their approach, they're going to approach your damaged rotator cuff likely with a surgical approach first, versus, not all of them, but versus physical therapists, who will likely want to just work through therapy and build up the muscles, the deltoids, and et cetera around your joint. So I'm saying you have to look at the bias, and in this case, you have to go in with that approach and say, you know, there's bias, and here are the facts. And take Dr. Rao's 87% and have him look at it. But take all these other factors in. It's not just, again, it's not just about climate change. They need to see the entire spectrum of every single tipping point and damage that we've talked about tonight about our life support systems for us. And that should help. That should help matters. If they have that premise that those numbers aren't accurate, they're not written in stone, they're not revealing the reality of things.
I'll just say to Joel that I feel the same frustration, Joel, that you do. That why are we only at 3% of the population if that's where we are? You know, it's just my life's work to try to increase that number. The positive thing is we have the truth on our side, and you know, all the realities may eventually kick in, and you know, all the documentaries that good people are doing and all the books that good people are writing may eventually break through, you know, but it is discouraging that we're not further along.
Okay, thank you, Joel. Kathy, would you like to ask a question, and where are you from?
Well, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. And
Kathy, we can't hear you. I don't know what's wrong with your microphone. We can't hear you. Okay. Okay. Kaylee, would you like to ask a question, or where are you from?
Yes, thank you. Is there a way to place all these
the United
wonderful
States, but we've been. Can you hear me now?
Okay, I'm
Hello?
sorry. Hold on one second. Hold on. Okay. Say that again, Kaylee, please.
Thank you. Is there a way to place all of these documentaries, wonderful documentaries and interviews, all of the shorts that you've been putting on, that Ocean Robbins has been putting on, as mandatory into teachers' colleges? And also, could we sponsor local groups who are into cooking? Maybe Chef AJ, who among others could do that, and sponsor Parent Teachers Association meetings where, as part of the entree, that they have to, there's one film shown each time that the Parent Teachers Association meets, and that's part of the dinner that is sponsored by philanthropy.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've answered part of your own question, because you've essentially, first of all, that's great, and it's great to hear from you on behalf of our panel here. And you know, about 10 to 15 years ago, I started launching a much larger program just for education, just for what you're saying, realizing after speaking to a couple significant policymakers fairly high up in the United States that we needed to, again, approach it from both directions, but we needed a really grassroots effort in terms of education. So I went to a number of universities and spoke as many places as I could and tried to get parents involved. And that's actually, it seems like it's tedious, but this is what the three of us have been talking about with Stephen all night, is that you really have to have not only a top-down approach, but a bottom-up approach. And the bottom-up approach is coming from people like you. You know, if we had you in every educational system introducing I don't think, it has to be appropriate, and you can't be showing cowspiracy to kindergartners, I don't think, but, you certainly they can learn about their footprint. And they can learn about alternatives like Dr. Rao was talking about, so they can lose this, gain the taste of, what real, plants taste like rather than their dead animal products. But it's up to people like you too, to do this. And you can probably get a hold of any of us, I'm speaking for them too, at any point in time for any type of guidance or suggestions. And especially I know with my organizations, Inspire Awareness Now and Comfortably Unaware of It, to help guide you through that. But I think you're part of the key is to, take this and introduce it to the various educational systems that you're involved with, whether it's K through 12 or whether it's the college and universities, like many of them that I've been going to. So that's a big part of this educational effort.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
We
you.
each have our own gifts that we are bringing to this movement, and don't ever underestimate the gift that you have.